All right, so you guys had a very hard time out there on that trail. You guys accomplished that trail. Please tell us your story.
Well, somebody
Go.
start.
We started on a cloudy day and all excited for the hike.
I'm going to interrupt just to say I had no idea what the hell I was getting into here. I'm just like, sure, let's go on a hike. So, sorry.
Oh, it goes. So we got all packed up. We had a slight mist and started up the mountain. Thankfully, we didn't run into any wolverines like some of the other people did. And we just slowly yet surely made it up the mountain and got into the shale, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And we had no idea that we were going to be running into everything that we did. But we just kept on trucking.
The shale where we got lost.
Yes.
In the fog.
We
Don't
got
forget
lost
about
in the fog.
Uh,
That was very
which
interesting.
The only thing you can see is orange and nothing else.
Well, that's the thing though, is it started out as this day that you could see everything and everybody. The mist was light and not a big deal. And then by the time we got up the mountain, you know, the mist started setting in, the wind, the rain started setting in. And then, you know, all of a sudden the trail wasn't visible, and all of a sudden, you know, we knew that we needed to get down, and getting down wasn't even an option at the time. And that's where things started getting a little chilly, a little discouraging. But we eventually did find the trail.
Wasn't it Warren found it? Did you find it?
Yeah, Warren found the trail. I had
Those, what are they called? Karen's.
Karen's, yeah. We had got down to the snow cap, and then I'd lost the trail because I was leading at that point, lost it. And then it just dawned on me that we're out here in the middle of nowhere, and what was supposed to be there is not there. So I proceeded, I knew the direction we had to go, and I knew we had to go, so I went further up trying to find the path, thinking we were on a lower path. And while I was doing that, Gail is using her inReach. I'm trying to use my Sunto watch. It's where I've already had the trail plotted on, and it was so cold that because I wasn't wearing it, the watch was not operating correctly. So I knew the general directions where we had to go, so I went further up, and the next thing I know, I'm on this peak. I can see them and hear them down below, and like you said, all they saw was my orange on my pack and my poles, and then I hear them yelling at me, Todd, Warren found the path, and we get back down there and let Warren lead for a while, you know, because he found the path, you know, which was, you know, we were all grateful for, because, I mean, our electronic tools were not working correctly for us because it was so cold. After we got past that, we got close to the cabin, and I could see people in the cabin, but they were peeking. They had no lights on, no fire going, no nothing, and so I got the feeling that okay, they've already reserved this, they want it just for them, so we're going to keep on trucking. And at that point, I had to just drive everybody to keep going, and because we all wanted to go to the cabin. Trust me, I wanted to go to the cabin and get warm because we were soaked. But we just pushed on to keep going. I found another cairn, and we just kept following it. And Gail, we had gotten up, after we got to the path, we got to this one, you could tell where the glacier had been. It was nothing but boulders, nothing was growing. You know, what was surreal and so awesome was we saw the Raven Glacier to our right. I mean, it was just beautiful. I mean, it's huge, and now the bigger glacier I've been around. I've been up here for a long time, since '77, and we're trekking through it. I'm just thinking the whole time, it's like, okay, where are we going to stop at for the night? And but everybody we just kept moving along, even though the path ran out in front of us. It got very narrow, so you have to have one foot in front of the other, staying up higher. So we chose to do the lower side, which was wider, and it was more stable at that point. So we followed that one. And Xena, she wanted to stop. She was done for. It was her first time wearing a backpack, really. But yeah, she was pretty tired out. But we just kept moving, and then we got to one little scary spot where the path was getting narrow, but yet we knew the path up above had gotten wider. So Warren and Lacey, you guys were in front of me, and you guys had traversed up to that upper path. And then me and Gail and Christina and Amy were coming up behind them, and where I chose to go up, I was having trouble, so I directed Christina to go a different route, so don't follow me. And then Gail and Amy went up to my left. And we got up to this one spot, and all of a sudden I went to press up, and my left leg went completely straight backwards. The ground just gave way because all the rain that was there just gave way. And I was holding on to the ground, and I tried to push with my right, and I felt it going. And I had to yell at Warren for help. And at first he was a little bit surprised that I was yelling, and then second of all, yelling for help. By the time he got down to me, I wish my hands were up there, and when I pulled up and I went to push up with my right, all that ground had given way. And it was a 1,000-foot drop behind me. There was a shelf. Had I landed and stayed on it, I could have injured myself, but if I had bounced off that shelf because it was so narrow, I was going down 1,000 feet.
Oh my goodness.
And the whole time I'm hanging there, and I had screamed for Warren, I just looked up and said, "You can't have me now. I'm not done." Said, "I'm staying." And Warren came to my rescue and pulled me up, and we kept on going from there for a little while.
I'm sorry, I was stuck there too, and there was no way I was making it up that hill without you talking me up it. So I was convinced I was going to go backward.
This one went bouncing up like
I
it was
know, like some
nothing.
kind of mountain goat. I'm trying to follow up behind her, and
I think she's
I
really into Clark. There's a good result.
Yeah.
I mean, and as difficult as it was to traverse that spot, like by this point, you know, we're rounding out the end of our day. We're tired, we're weak, but we also know that there's a bear above us on the ridge.
Yeah.
Just a bear.
Tell us a little bit about the bear.
Well,
Tell us about the bear.
on the way up, Kim and Julie were hiking with us. Their intent was to go up to the pass with us and then turn back.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't start out too bad. It was raining the whole time. We waited. You guys were 2 hours late. We were thinking, okay,
Yeah.
well, what happened?
I was going to address
You
that
know,
too.
we didn't hear
Never made
anything,
start.
so we were wondering kind of what to do. But they finally showed up, and we started out. And then as we started up in the steeper parts, Todd was having a really hard time. His pack was really heavy, and he would go 15, 20 yards, and then he would have to stop. And then as we got higher, about the time that Julie and Kim decided to turn around and go back, it was extremely cold, extremely wet, and the wind was blowing like crazy. And I remember Todd told me, he said, "I'm so cold, I can't feel my hands," you know. And so we started talking like, well, maybe if we get up to the cabin, we'll stay there overnight, warm up, and come back out. I mean, we were thinking about turning around at that point. By the time we got up to the cabin and it leveled off at the pass, I think everybody felt a little better, and we thought, okay, we can get through this and we'll start down the other side. But there was great concern on the way up whether or not we should go on. And the weather report was horrendous. I mean, it was, even the National Weather Service was saying, exceptionally heavy rain.
And
the
it
fog at the
definitely
top was really bad. I had been up there before with Ileana, and we had gone down to where we could overlook Raven Glacier, but didn't go on the path any further. And I thought, it's just all rock, you know, it's got to be here somewhere. I mean, it just kind of goes along the ridge in the valley. So I started following down the path where Gail said it just disappeared. And what had happened was there was a snow drift down in the valley there still, and the path had gone right through there, but the snow covered it up, so it looked like the path disappeared. But I found a way around and found the cairns. But yeah, it was wild, just even getting around that part.
That was something else. Just that fog, you know.
Yeah.
Well, to backtrack a little, I think in hindsight, it happened to me before on one of my previous hikes is, boy, you have to leave on time. Every minute counts when you're doing something like that if you don't know what you're necessarily getting into.
Yeah.
And I think that pushed us a little bit that first day. We should have gotten further, but we were tired and cold.
Oh, I went down and I couldn't get back up.
Yep.
Yeah, it was at that point that you couldn't get back up that I knew that there was no going further. I was like, we're stopping for the night.
And Lacey and I had looked ahead to try to find water and someplace to camp. And so we booked it and we were like, wow, this is the perfect place. And then Zena comes up to us, barking like crazy. She was not going to let us go anywhere. We're like, something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So we were ready to drop our packs, and then they came around the corner and said, we need to stop. We're like, you have the perfect spot. It's right here. We found it. There's no water, although
Well,
Zena found it next morning. It was right there. But
Oh,
we had
no
enough to
wood.
make
Don't
dinner.
forget no wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with that, Warren had started hand feeding me because I stopped with the ability to use my hands because they were so cold and frozen that I couldn't even direct them quite towards my mouth.
Yeah, that bear that we had stalking us on the ridge, he was watching us and stuff, and we all knew that, and we're just like, we're just gonna keep going forward.
It was
All
very
Amy
interesting.
wanted to do, she wanted to rest for a minute, but she knew with that bear up there, we had to keep pushing forward. And that's what we did. Then we found, and then when we made camp, my tent was off, Warren's was off, and then we had a tent that Lacey brought that she was going to use, but we didn't have guidelines for it, so we turned it into a gear tent. And then she stayed with Christina and the baby, and Gail had her tent. And we were sleeping, and the wind's blowing, you know.
That's right.
And it's pouring down hard, and there was no way for us to get a fire. I could not get a fire going. There was nothing to dry to cut.
That's why we could have a hot dinner.
Yeah, so we used our water for hot food and doubled up on that. And then in the middle of the night, you know, it wasn't the wind that was blowing that caught my attention. It was the damn bear sniffing my head through the tent. Just pressing its nose. I got my head up there and it's pressing its nose against the tent. You know, and I'm like, okay. So now I got my gun, and it's over my head. And I hold them just ready for it because I knew where everybody else's tent was. They weren't in danger. And yeah, so it was, you know, just sniffing. I just let him do it. Zena knew it was there. She just couldn't see it, but she stayed quiet because she knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't make a peep. And we both just looking at the wall of the tent, waiting for that pressure to come off. And then it came around and started sniffing her a little bit. And she had pulled back, and she was almost on top of me. And then the bear went off, and then that's when...
Well, I don't know if I was before that or after that, but I thought it was the wind too. And so I have a little one-man tent, and the fly only goes to here. And the wind was blowing, it was raining, and I just felt like pressure. I was on my tummy sleeping, pressure here. And in hindsight now, I know it was a bear, but you know, you're half dreaming, you're just like, yeah. And we all questioned it until we found the prints in the
Yeah,
morning.
I remember waking up thinking, I think I
Yeah.
dreamed there was a bear here.
Let's go find some tracks.
What had caught my attention was Brooklyn had woken up to nurse in the middle of the night, and you know, there's a bit of fussing, there's a bit of rolling, you know, like we had made a decent amount of noise, and so I finally got her to a point where I was laying on my back, and she's on top of me, and I can hear the slinking of the claws dragging in the gravel, and it's slink. And then you could just almost hear the pad, and then it was just such an uneven rhythm. You could just tell he was sauntering around. And so at that point in time, I started to map out, you know, exactly what's around me and make a getaway plan. It was the most terrible getaway plan I've ever done. I'm like, I guess he'll go for the gear tent first. And so if I hear anything happen to that. And thankfully we never needed it, but I could hear him later pushing up against the tent on Lacey's side. I could kind of see the dark spots and stuff, but the slinking of his claws was kind of the more eerie of the sounds.
I
that
like having
could
my
make.
weapon as a pillow.
You know, I had
Yeah, so did he.
I'm getting a gun. I'm sorry. I'm not going up there again without my own gun.
But yeah.
I never heard a thing.
You were out, huh?
Well,
You
I-
were when
I
she
must
hit
have
the hay.
slept
That was
through all- And
it.
they said the next morning, we looked around, there were no prints around my tent. So,
See, that's because the
The bear did not once go near that the
Your
gear
turn.
tent at all. He was just investigating
Try to
and
keep
checking
his
us
stuff.
out.
My back is hurting.
So
Oh, get comfortable. I
Just
said it
so
on
that
there.
he had a good mama, but-
but we get up the next morning, we pack in, we're getting up, stretching and everything else like that, getting ready to make breakfast, and Zena was so thirsty that she just kinda started wandering out from camp, and I followed her, and she led us right to a stream that was 40 feet from camp. that we couldn't even hear who was there.
Further up the trail, so of course we didn't investigate that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
'Cause
she,
we were head down to just sipping water until we
Yeah.
knew Raven Gorge was coming up, so.
yeah, that's where we were gonna get our next water, but she had found us the water, she let us know where it was at.
Comment about rain gear. I was really well prepared with very expensive Vortex coat and pants and a really good quality tent. And my Gore-Tex totally failed. I mean, it was completely soaking wet inside and out. And I just hung my jacket on the outside of my tent that night because it was of no value.
Yeah.
My $13
No value.
Walmart suit was wonderful.
Yeah.
It did rip in the pants, backside.
Mine disintegrated, so.
Yeah,
yours
yeah.
did, yeah.
And did you even have?
I did not bring rain gear. If you could see the expressions behind me at the current moment. I brought quick dry things that I've used in the rain before, and it wasn't that bad. They did dry and everything as we went, you know, which is something to be said. Like, you know, they stayed wet after they got wet.
Come here.
So it wasn't that bad up until the end where I was chilled to the bone.
Yeah,
Oh, that
she suffered miserably because she was soaking wet. But I must admit, Brooklyn
Yeah,
never
Brooklyn,
really fussed much. I mean,
garbage,
she was warm against her chest and fed constantly. And the only time she fussed is when she took her away, put her in a dry tent. I mean, as worried as we were about the baby,
Baby probably got through
the
easier than
baby
the rest
did
of
pretty
us.
well. We lost
I
the
think.
booty
We did lose the boot,
on the
but
last day. but-
within a sufficient amount of time, we were able to get wool socks on her. But that first day, I did dress her in cotton. I would say this to anybody a million times over: cotton kills. And that first day, she was cold. You know, getting into camp was a good bit of a fuss. And the rest of the time, she was dressed in fleece, and she was a lot warmer and a lot drier.
The second day, on Saturday, we had, what was initially planned was that we were going to cross the river on Saturday. So
Goes
we,
back to the late start.
yeah, because, you know, we didn't want to be pushing 12 miles on Sunday. We didn't want to be pushing that. We had got to the river late. It was high, and it was pouring down rain. There was only one place for coverage, and there was no. I was not getting. I didn't really want to get in the water myself because I was already so frozen. Zena was frozen. She was cold and wet and tired. She was done. Brooklyn, she had had enough for the day, so we went back, made camp. Still, again, couldn't get a fire going. It was just pouring too hard. Every time we got it started, the rain put it out.
You guys tried for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
I dragged the whole tree with a crank can.
So that's when I was like,
Yeah.
Lauren, do you have a 2-person tent? Because I just want to get in there with someone else and not be bear sniffed.
Well, yours would leak the first night
Yeah.
as well too.
Yeah, so I found out without having that fly, if you touch against it, it does leak through. So I wasn't soaked.
It was the bear's fault.
I know.
And on the second night, my tent failed. I mean, it just leaked miserably. You know, and I'm getting Chinese water torture all night. There's no sleep to be had. You know, so my gear, and I mean, I got all wet all over again. But
We're all buying Warren's tent.
he's gonna all buy us one.
I thought we were just buying a big version of Warren's tent so that everybody could share and sleep in a pile from now on.
Yeah, you know, but you know, then we came up. We had to get up. We get up in the morning on the third day to go across that river, and
We had to have a fire. There was just no way
Oh
to
God,
get
I thought I
Yeah.
was gonna die. I was so cold.
yeah,
That's when I decided we needed to decide whether we're really pushing the SOS button or we're just mildly pushing it and calling for help.
Well, to
Right.
be fair, Lacey and I were nice and snug and warm.
I was
You
not
guys had a
cold.
lovely tent to warm up in with the baby, I have to say. With
You
all
know.
your sleeping bags and everything.
I don't think I was cold the whole trip. I don't know.
Oh, I am so jealous of you right now.
yeah.
I was cold the
I know.
whole trip.
I was chilled to the bone
Uh-huh.
from the evening
Yeah.
from the evening of the first day. I mean, it didn't stop.
So with having that warm start though, it enabled me to go out and like, hey, I'll build a fire.
Yeah.
we do.
And you know, I knew that they'd struggled for like 2 or 3 hours. I didn't know if the fire was gonna start or whatnot. I'm like, well, what do we got, guys? And it turns out the diapers make decent burning materials. It is not good for the ozone. All you hippies can go bugs her off.
Yeah, because nobody wants to freeze to death, so you know we'll kill a little bit of ozone. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, the thing was, yeah, the rain had stopped. It was almost a mist. We were able to get the fire going. We didn't have that downpour happening where it kept putting it out. Because Lacey and I mean, she tried her hardest with me. I mean, even after I gave up for a minute, she's got a little tarp thing over it trying to keep it going, and it just wouldn't work. You know, it just didn't. And I mean, Zena at this point, she was so cold that she dug a little bed in the ground and was laying there, and then Gail made some oatmeal and had a hand feed her while we're trying to get camp. So that was the only way that she was going to eat. And then that warmed her up enough to where she ate her own food and stuff. You know, she was able to do that.
I would have to say too, if we have an award to give for Miss Congeniality, it would be Lacey.
Yes.
I mean, no matter what the situation was, she was positive. I mean, she was happy and
Spreading glitter everywhere.
Farting
glitter. Farting glitter.
I mean,
we had, if Lacey was in front, we had a blow-by-blow description of the trail. I mean, there's a rock here, there's a hole here, there's a...
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
She'd be so tired, she'd yell
And
out,
then-
tree.
There was that, what was that sound you guys were making?
the dead animal sound.
It's not a dead animal.
It works.
Oh, an animal dying.
I knew exactly where she was when we were doing it.
They
That was
kept
Clark.
doing that
What
to
noise
see
are
where
you
they
guys
were.
making?
If we got ahead, we'd hear that yelp,
And we know we
and
keep
if we
going.
didn't respond, we waited.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a
But
proximity.
I kept
It
telling
worked.
him it
Called
was
a
the
hoot.
sound that
Right, and it
I
worked.
got clear
I'm
from
sorry,
that
it
piece
works
of
so
speed
much better
kill.
than like some chicken. You know?
Clark was yelling some beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dunlogger.
But once we got to the river after we got everything packed up and stuff. I
But we
mean,
had watched Matt and Tanya.
Yeah.
And met them
Yeah,
the day before.
You and I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, they went out there and watched them, you know, to find out how they were crossing, because what our initial plan was going across Locked Elbows, you know, where we could go across that way. But luckily they went and saw how they did it, and they wanted being a little bit better than the Locked Elbows.
What's that video I'd sent to you guys? That's the accepted way now. Like a caterpillar with the strongest person in front, facing upstream.
Well, here's where we went wrong. I was in the lead.
Well, because
Oh, you did great.
well, see,
No, it was
Everybody's alive,
Yeah.
so that's got to
Yeah.
say something, right?
yeah, I know, even though it wasn't the strongest person, you know, because Gail was asking how we're going to divide this up, and I said, well, you and Warren watched it, so each of you are going to be a team lead, and that was just that, because they knew exactly how to do it. So we stuck with that plan. Me, Gail, and Lacey went across first with Xena, and I thought I was cold. I thought I was chilled to the bone. But once I stepped into that river, I wanted to step right back out. But you know, once your foot's in, you're committed. We knew we were committed. And Xena wasn't too sure about it though. She hopped in and hopped back out. But
Because I
That was a cold
remember
wait.
she was
Wait.
dragged into the river.
she
She
was
was not going to go in that
There was a
river.
song called Waiting on a Woman, and I was like, come on, Xena, come on. Let's go. It's cold out here.
Yeah, it's a good thing I had her tied to the lead, because usually she'll follow me anywhere, but she wasn't having any of that
She-
nonsense.
I
don't know
seen
if she
your-
would come. Yeah.
A little bit of your video, and she was definitely confused. She needed to be with him, but then she was just like, oh,
To be said,
I
Xena
don't know what to do. What do we do? It's so
Yeah.
cold.
Was
He's
still-
way over there, and
She was still tired and cold.
still exhausted. Like, and we're not just talking tired. This is Xena wouldn't stand up, and Xena was shivering and not eating, and you know, like it's not just
Yeah.
minor things. She
She
was
was
definitely
cold.
between hypothermia and exhaustion.
Yeah. And
But
then
I'm so
all-
glad I sent out the text SOS to our friends ahead of time, because, you know, we tried to get a hold of you guys, not knowing that, okay, your cell phone's not working, and you guys had given it to Matt and Tanya at some point. And so I felt better getting responses, and then it got to the point where we were so busy doing other things, I think that's the delay, is I couldn't stop necessarily and text everybody.
yeah.
In hindsight, listening to the other things, I should have texted more and had more communication, but our goal was to keep walking. So at the
Yeah.
fire, we tried to explain the river crossing again and do all of that. And I felt bad because the one exception I didn't do was when we got to the other side, I didn't want the next group to come. I was ready to push the SOS button at that point.
And we could not hear her.
No, so I'm like, no, and I felt like I overwhelmed them at the campfire that morning with all the, remember, unbuckle your packs, or I would have crossed my things and said, don't do it. Once we crossed, and she helped me up when I fell one time, and you just get to the point where you're like, I can't take another step. This is it. And I didn't want to cross with her.
Which I never want to cross a river like that with a baby again. I love you, I love your baby, I never want to cross a river like that with a baby again, because that was scary. I was afraid I was gonna fall and drag you guys down with me. My feet were getting washed out, I should have just left my boots on.
Yeah.
That would have been way better than the river
Yeah,
crossing
leaving
shoes.
the boots on
They
would
were already
definitely
wet.
been better. The boots you could insulate up against versus we brought some water shoes, to protect our feet, to dry off quick. And you don't want to dry off quick. You want the water to warm up a little.
And yeah.
It was so bad that crossing the river, the first thing I said to Gail, hey, are my shoes still on?
She
Because
did
I couldn't
say-
feel them and
she
I
said-
couldn't see them.
Yeah.
Look at my
we
feet, I
couldn't
think
feel our
I
feet.
don't think I have my shoes on anymore.
You had the same experience I did. When I got to about the same spot, you fell.
Yep.
Well, that's where I went down too.
Because there's that.
And I banged my knees really
So
hard.
hard to watch.
But
That's why
I
I was like,
didn't,
oh
I
my
didn't
gosh.
even feel it at the time, because my legs were numb, my feet were numb, and it was just like you could hardly get your feet going. Now, we watched Matt, the rescue person, tall, his girlfriend was it Tanya?
Tanya, yeah.
Was she
Both
like a
of them,
6
she's
footer?
like
Yeah.
6'2" or
And I even
something.
said, remember I said,
Yeah.
how tall are you? I want some
Yeah,
of you.
because they were up to their thighs,
Yeah.
so little short people like us, it was hitting our main
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
And to go
and it
back a
was
little
really
bit with them,
pushing- yeah.
we
But
did
at
talk to
15,
them, and I
and
said,
then
when we
restarted
find
again.
our friends, Trina and Anthony, please give them this message. We need help. We need a warm fire and warm clothes. We're not gonna make it. And I eventually got a text back from him after he met you guys. He said, your friend's unable to come back. At some point, you'll have to download all that.
Yeah.
Be careful, the trail's washed out. And then at one point, he was like, make contact ASAP.
Yeah.
So, but everything's so delayed out
Yeah, even with the satellite.
Yeah.
I tried getting a fire after we got across the river.
Oh,
And I was just so freaking cold, I was just shaking and I just could not get anything to go. Even with diapers that she gave me, it was just so wet, it just couldn't go.
Yeah.
And Lacey tried to help it again, and it's just like, Mother Nature was like, F you, forget sitting around,
You gotta
Get
go.
rid
go
of
home.
We
And
probably only had a few more minutes left that we could have stayed before
Yeah.
things would have been problematic. We
By the
needed to-
time we got
Yeah.
across, we got up to you guys, I felt like the only way we're staying warm is to hike.
there. Right.
Yeah.
And so we all
Yeah, keep
got
moving.
dressed again and
I
took
think
off. I was
I-
hiking back and forth while I was waiting for everybody else.
I think
You know,
I was
I had-
slapping some things on my
Yeah.
blisters at
Yeah.
that point.
I had-
That was getting pretty
I
bad.
had my Tevas on with those waterproof neoprene socks.
I
They're
had-
great for the crossing.
I had them too.
However, now I've learned when you get done with the crossing, you take them off immediately because it still holds that cold water. So I still had a little bit of that unthawing, but I need to take them off quicker.
Oh, and I'd like to backtrack even just to explain some of the things that happened in the crossing. Even with Warren as a strong lead, everybody standing behind the lead has a break in the water. And so you feel like you're stronger than the lead and you start to think that you can take off and you start to think that like, well, Warren's down, better get out of this river and things like that. And thankfully Gail was over at the edge shouting,
Yeah.
like,
Slow down.
back off, like
I-
you gotta follow
I had
Warren.
no idea what we were yelling about. I was just repeating everything he said in
I
case
know.
everybody could hear it.
I would yell,
I
slow
was
down.
getting like
And she would yell,
shoved
slow
You're
along.
down.
so cold you can't even think through the
And
process.
I couldn't see him, and I was just getting shoved every time I lifted a foot up.
Because it was
Right.
quite
All I
the
could see
current.
was your back.
Yeah, and it's hard because like
And
I
the
said
first
before,
person is taking the brunt of
Yes.
the current.
and that's what.
And I have a very stiff hiking pole,
Mhm.
and I had it set so that I had the heaviest part out. And when that was buried in the rocks, and the water was going by it, it was vibrating.
Well,
Did you feel
me
that?
too, because I didn't
I
use
couldn't
my light
believe that.
hiking poles. I used one of y'all's.
You
hiking
used
poles.
mine.
Yeah.
It was
So I
amazing.
had, yeah.
Yeah, it was just.
That's when I
shuddering.
fell, I was like, luckily she was there, and like, I said, don't let go of my arm, because that was when I was like, I think we need to change leads or something, but yeah. it was
Yeah,
like-
when I was down, I asked Christina, can you help me up at all? Because I was so cold and my back, I didn't know if I could push myself, I was on my knees, didn't know if I could push myself back up, but you must have grabbed a little bit because then I was able
I
to.
mean, I felt like